Hey gang, we're in California. We're actually in the San Jose area, and this is Oak Hill Memorial Park. Beautiful, large cemetery. A lot going on here today. No matter where you go, there's weed whackers and lawnmowers and branches going in the mulcher, so I'm going to try and avoid a lot of that in this. This seems to be the only quiet section. I want to get to the grave of a family who was brutally murdered by axe and gun near here, and we'll kind of make our way there, and we'll see. If not, we'll just go there at the end no matter what. But yeah, it's a story that's brutal story in this area. Campbell Axe Murders, we'll call it. The town was Campbell, small little area. So we have a woman named Ada Wells. She was a school teacher here in this area. Her husband Oscar, after retiring from military service, had brought Ada here 1867. And the reason they came here was because his health was really bad. And, you know, the climate here was, you know, everyone was coming west. Well, for a lot of reasons, but that was one. Now, they had two children, a daughter named Hattie and a son named James. And they lived on an orchard in the town of Campbell. But sadly, Oscar died in 1883. Now 6 years went by, and Ada met a man named Colonel Richard McGlinchey. Now the colonel had arrived here in 1888 after serving in the Confederate Army and retiring. He had held several public offices here. He's a very upstanding guy, very well known. So they got married, and they all lived at the orchard. How many years went by, and Hattie and James grew up, and the family was doing well. They had servants, and everything was going well. Now Hattie, who was meeting men, she was once engaged to one man. There were two brothers. It was Charles Dunham, the younger brother of a man named James Dunham, that she was going to marry, but she ended up marrying James instead at the last minute in 1895. James was not a good guy. Now they lived together on the McGlinchey orchard, all together, the in-laws. And on May 4th, Hattie gave birth to a son, and they named him Percy Osborne. Cute little boy. Now, as I alluded to, James was not very highly regarded. And at the time of the marriage to Hattie, he was going through a divorce from a young woman he was had eloped with recently. And in Stockton, up in Stockton, he had a bicycle business. He was a bicycle guy. He didn't do so well. He's rather lazy, 30 years old, and everyone kind of was talking about him that really hadn't done anything to support Hattie and now the new family child. But Hattie liked him because they were both bicyclists, and they were making these trips all over, long-distance trips and adventures. One time they had ridden together from Stockton all the way to Sacramento. Now, what's interesting is when they went to Sacramento, husband and wife, they're in the room, and the next day, all Hattie's jewelry is gone, and no one can figure out where it goes. Well, Police were called, and turned out that James like took her jewelry. He went to the pawn shop and pawned her jewelry. Like right out from under her nose, right out from under the bed, right? What a scumbag. So he was looking really bad. He was looking really bad. Well, they would end up going back to the orchard and trying to resume things. He entered in college. He thought that maybe if he were to try to pursue some type of degree, that would be respectable. Yeah, but that really didn't work out so well. He was really up to no good the whole time. He was really starting to form some kind of really weird, evil plan. And on Monday, May 25th, 1896, for no reason, he withdrew his life savings from the bank. It's about $1,000. The next day, he took his bicycle, hid it in the brush by a dry creek just a few hundred yards in the orchard. He was setting something up. Now, on the night of May 26th, right, the next day, Colonel McGlinchey left the orchard for a few hours to attend a meeting of the American Protective Association, which was an anti-Catholic association, Protestant-based, and they were one of the largest in the country. And Colonel, with his stepson James, his son, one of the, that we had, Hattie and James, took James with, and he took one of the two farmhands with, a guy named George Shable. Now, in the meantime, James Dunham started to put together his evil plan, or I should say, act on it. It was about 10 p.m. The men are over at the meeting, and the women are all in the house. And James sneaks in about 10 p.m. and he has an axe. That's right. Takes the axe, finds Hattie, his first victim, kills her, chops her head open. The baby's right there, doesn't kill the baby. And next he finds in the dining room Minnie, who was the servant. She was barefoot. She heard all the commotion, and they met. And the next thing you know, he's chasing her around the dining room table in circles, kind of like, on dodging each side. And she's throwing dishes at him, the fine china from the hutch, and anything she can grab. She is, and there's broken glass everywhere. She's barefoot, and she's running over the glass, blood everywhere from her feet. Finally gets her and chops her head open with the axe. And if that's not enough, he kills Ada. So 3 down. And one axe blow, they said, they learned later, would have killed them. But it wasn't enough. He just kept hacking at their heads, smashing their skulls. And then what does he do? He goes out to the front porch and he lights a cigarette or two, and he just hangs out there. He's just going to hang out. And they know that because there were 2 passers-by that came down the road. They saw him smoking cigarettes. Little did they know what was going on, had gone on inside. Right? But he does not flee. He waits. Now he's waiting for the colonel to come home. And the colonel comes home around midnight with the two men, the farmhand and then young stepson James. They walk in the front door, and James Dunham is waiting behind the door. And the colonel comes in first, and James takes the axe, hits him over the head, but kind of glancing blow. And his hat, colonel's hat, kind of protected him. And there's a big scuffle, you know, and they're going for the axe. James steps in. So James Dunham pulls out one of the two revolvers. He had absconded with the axe a couple of guns from the house. And I should mention that what he did was, before they came home, he got all the important papers and he got pictures of himself. He tried to like get all evidence of himself, you know, put away, and he was gonna, after he killed everyone, he was gonna leave with that, all that stuff. So the big scuffle, pulls out the gun, kills James. I think he winged the colonel a couple of times. Colonel goes running down the hallway out the, I think it was the kitchen window, jumps out the window, and James is coming after him with the axe and the guns. He makes it to where the two farmhands are, because he had told Scheibel to go give the horses some hay. There was another guy named Bob Briscoe. These two guys are in there. Well, Scheibel goes up to the hayloft because he hears all the gunshots. He hears all this stuff going on. So he goes up in the hayloft to hide. And Colonel goes into the shed where the two guys live. And he's in there with the other John. And they're like barricading the door because James Dunham's trying to get in. And he says, "I want you. I've come for you. Come out." And they're not coming out. He's like, "I've got 2 bullets in me. I'm not, put your gun down." Like, almost like, haven't you had enough? It's like, "No, I want you and I want Scheibel, you too." He's just calling out. He puts 2 wild shots in the door. So poor Bob Briscoe, he's like, he panics, jumps out the back window. James hears him from outside, takes the gun out, the other gun, because he's out of loads, and he chases him down and guns him down. Meanwhile, the colonel comes out in that commotion. He's like, "Oh, here's my chance to escape." But what he should have done is he should have went and hid, like in the woods, and he was stumbling to the house going, "Help, help." So James just came back and got him down on the ground and just gave him the coup de grace and killed him. So now you have everybody dead except for Scheibel, who's hiding in the hayloft. Imagine. No, James goes in, he's like, "I got to get this last guy. I've got everybody, I've got 1 more to go." So he goes in there and he's calling out. And Scheibel's hiding under the haystack. And James comes right up the ladder, right in front of him. Little does he know that Scheibel's like right there under the haystack shivering. And he's calling, he's lit a match. "Where are you?" But he didn't find him. He did not find him. So he took the horse, one of the horses from the stable, and he rode off. So there was one witness who was able to tell the entire story, Scheibel. Now the manhunt begins, and really, to make a long story short, they are after him. There are 2 men that confronted him on the road. They didn't know who he was, but they were suspicious. The word was going around. But in the fog, he played it real cool and he slipped by. Then later they were like, "Oh, it was him. We should have jumped him." Literally an hour later, they tried to backtrack. They could not get him. And there were all sorts of sightings, people here and wide, and they never caught him. They think he went to Mexico, they think he went to maybe Cuba, but he was never seen again, he was never caught. So, we're gonna walk over to the grave now of all but one of the victims, which is, well, before when I drove by, it was completely surrounded by workers. So I didn't want to put you through that, but we'll swoop in and we'll have a look at the graves. They're all buried next to each other, and we will pay our respects. Okay, as I was telling you, this is the center of activity. There's branches being mulched over there. I mean, it's a crazy town here, but we have found their graves. And there are a lot of interesting monuments. But right behind them here, you see everybody's here. And pardon the noise, do the best we can. So there is a family plot, and the one thing that I see that is really eerie is vengeance is mine, I will repay. So here's Bob Briscoe, one of the farmhands, native of Kansas City, Missouri. And you'll see the same date, May 26, 1896, for everyone here. Here's the Colonel, Colonel McGlinchey. And it says native of Shepherdstown, Jefferson County, West Virginia. I think that's Oddfellows, right? Here's Ada's grave. This is Ada McGlinchey, 1842, 1896. I will repay. O.C. Wells died earlier, 1883, not sure. That's her first husband, O.C. Wells, okay? Here is Hattie. Hattie and James are both here. Daughter, same date. And to finish it, it says, saith the Lord. And then we have James K. Wells. And there it is, guys. That is all of these people wiped out. All of these people wiped out in an instant.